Today I'm talking gaming. Basically, I'm what I would describe as the Netflixer of gaming. I like to play whole series all at once because I'm really bad at cliffhangers. Since last October I've been really playing Dragon Age. I started with Origins when it was the free game on Origin. Slightly confusing. Then went all the way through Awakening in Day 2 and I finished Inquisition about a month ago, and I decided to start playing the Witcher games. Before I started, I mentioned it to my brother, and my brother was like, I really don't think you're gonna like The Witcher. He said the first one he thought was a load of rubbish. He liked and enjoyed the second one, and the third one is the best game he's ever played. He advised me to skip the first one, but I'm bad at skipping things because if I skip things then I get too held up in the in-game lore and I'm like, I want to know what happened! So I thought regardless I would start at the beginning, and when I bought it, it was on sale on Origin, and I bought the first two for under £5, or maybe it was just over £5, I don't remember offhand. Anyway, it was fairly cheap, and I thought, you know, if I end up hating it, I paid £2.50 for it, and that's not really a huge amount in the scheme of things. Anyway, so I started on The Witcher. Going into it, I was prepared to hate it, and actually I didn't hate it. I don't think it's a great game, but I don't think it's something that, you know, I don't think it's completely without merit. Everything relies on mouse clicks, so it was really hard for me to get used to at first. And even now that I'm almost finished, I still don't really like it. It's a really complicated system because you have like so many. How many different weapons do you have? You have the regular sword, silver sword, secondary weapon, and a dagger or a torch if you happen to carry the torch instead. So you have like 4 different choices of weapon, and then in that, both the main iron sword and the silver sword both have different combat techniques. So yeah, if you're fighting a human, you use the irons, a human or an elf or a dwarf, someone humanish. You use the iron sword, and if they're really, really tall, you use, I can't remember the style names, but there's the sort of hard style for tall people, and then there's a mid-range style for short ones, and then there's group style, which is the little cat icon, where you can like attack everybody around you all at once, but it only really damages them very well if they all happen to be the same kind of thing. And if you're fighting monsters, you use the silver sword, which again has the 3 different techniques. And it can be really confusing in the middle of a battle to be like, wait, what height of sword do I use on you? Another thing, in the prologue, there's a sorceress called Triss Merigold, and she gets injured in the prologue, and you have to get some ingredients for a potion to heal her. And then if you get the ingredients of the potion, she starts fluttering her eyes at you, basically. And this was something I was warned about beforehand. I was told that there's this really sort of childish sex card thing where basically you can sleep with half of the women in the game, and you get a little card for it for each one, which is, yeah, that sounds really, really, really awkward, and it kind of was. And someone warned me ahead of time, oh, you can avoid most of them. Okay, cool. So anyway, so here's Triss sort of vaguely hitting on me, on Geralt after he's given this potion and everything, and I went, well, that's a little bit weird, so I skipped her. I was like, nope, not into it. And then the prologue ends with this cutscene that basically implies they were a couple, and I'm like, well, if I'd have known they were a couple beforehand, I might not have skipped that. Because I'm not completely against sex in video gaming, I just don't like it as a sort of, I don't like it when it's a, oh, collect all the women's kind of thing, or collect all the men's kind of thing, although I've never ever seen a collect all the men's kind of thing in a game. But someone will accuse me of misandry if I don't mention it. Chapter 1 I really loved. It takes place in the outskirts of Vizima, which is where Geralt goes after the fall of Kaer Morhen. He goes to try and find out what the deal is with the salamanders who attacked Kaer Morhen, And basically I really love chapter 1. There's all sorts of freaky stuff going on. There's demon dogs, there's this kid Alvin who seems to be he has these dreams and strange, lots of weird stuff happens to Alvin. Basically you just go around the entire outskirts of Vizima and try and work out what the hell is going on. The too long didn't read of chapter 1, spoilers by the way if I didn't already mention this, too long didn't read of chapter 1 is that there is a witch in the village and you have to decide whether or not you're going to side with her or if you're going to let the village just burn her. Because some crazy religious guy wants to. Which I did side with the witch, but like, again, you're trapped in you're in a cave with her trying to work out whether she's a good person or not, and she offers you sex, and I'm just like, what? That just, why? That seems really forced, and no. And I ended up turning her down because in my head that just really seems so desperate, and I'm not gonna accept vagina bribes. No, that's just not who I am when I roleplay. Yeah. 2, you go from the outskirts into Vizima proper, into the trade quarter, except you then immediately get arrested and you end up in prison, and you then end up in the sewers and you have to fight a basilisk. Or was it a cockatrice? I can't remember. I think it was a basilisk. 2 I quite liked. I really quite liked Siegfried, who is the knight of the Order of the Flaming Rose. He seemed like quite a cool guy. We fought alongside each other in the sewers. Everything was pretty cool. Got out of the sewers into the trade quarter. Really liked a lot of the characters in the trade quarter. I freaking loved Carmen. Where will they bury me? And chapter 2 or chapter 3, there is an elf girl you rescue from some bandits. And then you start talking with her, and Geralt's trying to get his memory back. And you're talking away to her, trying to understand her Elvish, and I was going for what it seemed like would be what she was saying, and apparently I was right, and then next thing I know, boobs! Going back to the sex cards thing, as I've said, I don't have an issue with sex in games. If it makes sense to the plotline, it makes sense to the plotline. But I managed to gain a sex card without expecting it, which was a bit weird, if I'm honest. It was really strange, especially since like he'd literally just saved her from some people that were threatening to rape her. Oh, thanks for saving me from being raped, now I'll give you some sex. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And that's kind of another niggle I kind of have with the Witcher game overall. Pretty much every woman, every female character in it ends up with someone threatens to rape her at the very least, and it's a bit awkward really. It's like, I don't have an issue with rape being presented in a game. I just don't like it being a tool to make, you know, Geralt look like some really awkward knight in shining armour to collect all the sex cards. And I know someone's probably gonna say, yeah, rape is used as a tool of war and a lot, and Witcher does deal with a lot of wars and stuff. Yeah, it's not just young attractive women that get raped in wars. Older women, men do too, but none of these people are ever threatened within the first Witcher game. Just the young attractive women. And it's just like, nah, I have issues with this. I find this kind of awkward. However, moving on. Chapter 2, I also met the elves for the first time, and I found myself siding with them quite early on. I know that it's possible to either side with the Scoia'tael, who are the elves and dwarves, basically the non-humans, who I sided with them because they seemed a lot more freedom-fighter to me. I can understand why somebody wouldn't side with them, because they do kind of have it in for humans a bit. But I didn't feel like that was what Yevon wanted to do. I kind of felt like Yevon was just trying to get his freedom. You'd also side with the Order of the Flaming Rose, who are basically the human knights who seriously have it in for the non-humans. And as much as I liked Siegfried, I had serious issues with this. Basically they encourage a lot of racism towards the elves and dwarves and the other non-humans, and I don't like it at all. I just can't find myself siding with racists. You can also be neutral within it. This is the witch's path. And I had intended to go for neutrality, but I just couldn't. I just found the Order of the Flaming Rose bar Siegfried to be really awful people. The swamp is basically, there are a lot of very strange people living on an island. They're really, really weird. The brickmakers and the woodcutters, and there are the druids, and and the elves in one corner as well. The humans were so weird. Oh wow, couldn't get away with them at all. So I think the residents of the swamp really helped me in my decision to pick the Scoia'tael path. Chapter 3 takes you into the trade quarter, as well as the temple quarter that you were in chapter 2. You can also still go off to the swamp, which you could from chapter 2. In chapters 2 and 3 you also get to spend some time with a woman called Shani. I really liked Shani. I ended up choosing Shani over Triss. Triss I found a bit weird, if I'm honest. I found her quite untrustworthy. There's a lot of things that it's implied she's not telling Geralt. It's pretty clear that she knows more about his past that he forgot than she's letting on. And she seems to be covering up with, well, you should find out for yourself. And I have issues with that. So I ended up picking Shani because Shani seemed a lot more trustworthy. She's a much nicer person, and yeah, she's just not weird, although her grandmother is really, really irritating. Chapter 3, you end up at a party with a princess and a guy called Patrick Swayze, whose name just kept constantly making me laugh because I kept reading it as Patrick Swayze on the subtitles. I'm not sure if that's deliberate or not. It amused me either way. I did expect him to be a ghost, and he wasn't. I don't think. I'm not quite finished yet. I'm in the epilogue, but he's not been revealed to be a ghost yet. He doesn't seem to have a thing for making clay pots either. I liked chapter 3. I did quite like the rubbing shoulders with the posh people in the party. I liked the political intrigue. This was probably the last chapter I can say I really liked, but it was still sort of fading a little bit compared to chapters 1 and 2. Chapter 3 kind of felt really long, and it just seemed to go on forever. It took me ages to finish chapter 3 because there were just little bits and bobs all over the place, and I ended up not finishing the contracts in this chapter because I was just that bored of bits going on in it that I was just like, fuck it, I'll get on with it. I'm sure I'll be able to come back to the trade quarter and the temple quarter later because, you know, I've spent the last 2 chapters here, so I'm sure I'm gonna stay here. Yeah, that didn't really quite work out. So there's a lot of political intrigue in it. You get to meet Princess Ada for the first time, and it's pretty obvious there's something weird about Princess Ada. One of the other big things about chapter 3 is you have to choose who you're leaving Alvin with, because Alvin has somehow ended up not with the witch Abigail anymore. You have to either leave Alvin with Triss or with Shani. I left him with Shani, which cements the relationship with Shani, and you get all this. You start getting hints that maybe Geralt doesn't completely want a witch's life because the mutations that cause him to become a witcher make him infertile. He mentions a few times over the course of the game after this. I don't actually know if this is just a thing with picking Shani, or if he would say the same if you pick Triss, because obviously I've just played the Shani path. He mentions a few times over the rest of the game, hinting at wanting a family and stuff, and he obviously can't. I mentions it to Kalkstein in one of the last couple of chapters, asking if there's a way to reverse the infertility thing, and Kalkstein's like, no, nope. And I quite like that, because up until this point, if I'm honest, as much as I like his whole mission to, you know, sort out the rampant monster thing and help out the Scoia'tael, I thought Geralt was a little bit of an arse up until he starts regaining his humanity, and that's not just because he wants a family, because, you know, I'm child-free myself, I don't want children, but the whole, it just felt a bit more fleshed out rather than just like, rah, I Witcher, I stab things with my multiple swords, rah. Like the game had been previously before that, and it was quite, you know, it's quite a touching storyline, I'll say. At the end of chapter 3, you run into the salamanders again, you get a chance to kill the professor, and then you end up falling through the floor, which leads to this incredibly not fun place that totally bugged up for me. Apparently it's a very common bug. Basically, there is a big giant Kikimor comes up through the ground. You have to run through a tunnel and collapse the tunnel on your way through by hitting the supports with Ard, which is the wind spell. Now, I was doing this, and I was hitting the first one, I was hitting the second one, I was hitting the third one, and then I was running through and trying to bring down the rest of the cave. And I did this so many times, but regardless of whether he was still in the cave or whether he was at the end of what appeared to be a safe tunnel, Geralt would just die on me, and I ended up having to look it up, and apparently it's a very common bug, and none of what I could find worked, and I was just like, well, this is really annoying. I know I only spent £2.50 on this game, but I would quite like to be able to complete it without a complete game-breaking bug. And it got to the point that I almost considered editing my game saves. I had a program downloaded and ready to do it, but I did manage to find a way to get past it, and that was to collapse the first set, ignore the second set, collapse the third set, try and collapse the cave while I was still in it, start the main cave collapse while I was still in it, and then dive for the end, and that worked for me. I don't know if it worked for anybody else who happens to, you know, have happened upon this, because everybody seems to have a totally different fix for it, and I tried so many different fixes that didn't work for me. So yeah, Kikimor, really irritating bug. Chapter 4, you end up in the village of Murky Waters, yeah, this is where things start getting really weird. You end up in the village of Murky Waters. Around Murky Waters, Geralt also meets Berengar, who is another Witcher. Berengar is not very happy about being a Witcher at all. He has a lot more extreme sort of, I don't know the word for it. He's not very happy. He feels like he was made a Witcher against his will, and he feels like he's had his life taken away from him. Geralt also runs back into Alvin. Alvin has evaded Shani. Geralt later finds out that this is because Shani's house was attacked by the salamanders, and guess what? One of them threatened to rape her. Wow, this is something that's not happened already in this story. So I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit at that, and I'm just like, oh, not again, seriously. Yeah, so Geralt tries to sort things out for Alvin, and it ends up not going that well, and he disappears before the end of the chapter. And Geralt also meets the Hermit, who mentions the Wild Hunt, who I managed to avoid seeing because I did exactly what the Hermit told me, but apparently if you don't do it quite right, you are introduced to the King of the Wild Hunt, who I assume are the same Wild Hunt as appear in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. They do not seem like the nicest of folk, I've got to say. I think the hermit says something about them being a harbinger of death and war and some sort of frosts. The frosts thing is brought up again later on by Jack Stalsberg, is that him? Anyway, the Order of the Flaming Rose guy in the epilogue. You also have to try and sort out a wedding. There's a woman in the village marrying a guy whose sister is really jealous, and the sisters end up killing each other. One of the sisters kills the other one, and some super friend-zoned asshole then kills the one that killed the first sister. And by this point, I'm just like, okay, this is interesting, but at the same time, yeah, it's not as interesting as some of the earlier chapters. You get Dandelion to come and sing a song that sends the spirits off, which I guess is kind of cool, but it's just really strange and weird. And then you get back, you have to sort out a dispute they have with the local fish people, the Voldunai. I managed to avoid them killing each other. I was about to take the Lady of the Lake, a cow, as a sacrifice, when I suddenly realised that I hadn't actually spoken to the Lady of the Lake herself about it, so I went over to the Lady of the Lake, asked her what she wanted, and she said, no, we didn't sort peace out. So I broke a peace between the fish people and the residents of the village, and then I came back and found that White Ralia has managed to get all of the Order of the Flaming Rose together, and they're going to attack the elves. The elves have taken the village hostage, and I'm just like, for goodness sake, stop! So I go rushing back to the village, try and sort things out. I basically get the elves to free the hostages. One of the hostages is Alvin, who then does a runner and vanishes into the other, never to be seen again, unless it's in the last 5 minutes or so that I have left of this game. And basically all hell breaks loose because the Order of the Flaming Rose had snuck up and ambushed anyway. So this basically seals it, that I'm with Scoia'tael. Big fight breaks out, manage to escape and get back to Vizima. And thus begins chapter 4. I get back to Vizima and basically the whole town is burning. There are Order of the Flaming Rose and Scoia'tael fighting everywhere. Zoltan is not a happy bunny about it. You finally get into Old Vizima, which isn't the plague pit that everybody's been saying it was for the first couple of chapters. Find Kalkstein again and a couple of old faces. You can also go off to the Swamp Cemetery. And this chapter was so freaking rushed. This chapter I did not like at all because it just felt so fast. I get that they were trying to go for like the town is burning, you had to sort it out really fast element, but my inventory was full and I've only really got a couple of chances to empty it, which I did, and then it was basically full again quite quickly, and it was very, very quickly pushed towards the mansion. The old abandoned manor, which, you know, I got to, and that's where Azajavid is. He has managed to mutate some people, including White Rala, who died at the beginning of the chapter. It's really strange because I feel like the cutscene that triggered wasn't for somebody who took the Scoia'tael path. It's just something about having cared a lot about White Rala, and I'm getting the impression that that had I taken the Order path, then White Rila might have been a romance card option, but because I took the Scoia'tael path she wasn't, so I feel like I'm missing some of the heartstring tugging, but it's still a bit shitty that like he rose her from the dead and made her a mutant that fights Geralt, and for some reason is wearing really skimpy armour when I'll give her a due, White Rila was, you know, quite sensibly dressed for a war beforehand. He also has all these mutant assassins and dogs and stuff, and you fight your way through the caves and eventually get to Azajavid and kill Azajavid. Just before him though was the fight with the two giant mutants, which I did entirely with a silver sword because I thought, oh well, they're mutants, they probably need fighting with the silver sword. Nope, guess they didn't, and that fight took me twice as long as it should have done. You also get to discover that Princess Ada is a Striga. Now, it's mentioned that this is the second time Princess Ada becomes a Striga. Basically, if you watch the sort of title sequence at the beginning of the game, it explains exactly how Geralt cured of being a Striga the first time. But an awful lot of people seem to want her dead when it happens to her as an adult. And nobody really gives very many clues on how to not kill her. But if you'd watched that, then you know that if you just wait it out then until morning, then she'll stop being a Striga. So that's exactly what I did. I just basically circled the room until the sun rose. It was really strange how many people were surprised that I hadn't killed her. It's a very strange edition. It was really kind of messy. And now I'm into the epilogue, which is all I have left. I think I'm pretty much finished it. You get back to Vizima again, and literally the entire town is on fire. You have Yevon as a temporary companion, although I assume if you take the Flaming Rose path, you have someone else, possibly Siegfried, I'm gonna guess. I don't know what happens if you choose the neutral path. Maybe you're on your own. Maybe Dandelion comes with you and hits things with his lute. I don't know. Or just poetries them to death, because some of his poems are a bit shit, if I'm honest. Although I do like Dandelion. I love Dandelion, actually. Dandelion's a womanizer, but he's not a creepy womanizer, and I like that. Yeah. So, you wander around the town, run into Siegfried pretty much straight away, and I felt really bad about killing Siegfried because I had quite liked him, but then he just seems to have this complete change of personality, and oh, I don't like that at all. You end up going through the sewers and coming back out again. You get into the old part of town where the whorehouse is burning, and there's nothing you can do about it, actually. I was hoping to get them, you know, expecting a, well, save Carmen thing, and there isn't. Along the way you discover that Carmen's dad is the priest from the outskirts of Vizima, and then eventually you make it to the Order of the Flaming Rose, and you go in and the Grandmaster is having a party. While Vizima is burning, he's indoors eating all the food with all the rich people and holding someone's baby like Rafiki from The Lion King or something. There's a really weird cutscene. I kind of got where they were going with it, but it was a really weird cutscene. And then he talks about the Wild Hunt and transports Geralt to some ice dimension, which is where I am now. So can't really say anything further about the end of the game. All I can say is it's a weird game. I don't hate it. There are a lot of things I don't like about it, but there are also a lot of things I do like about it, and I am curious to know more. I'm looking forward to playing 2, but since the last lot of DLC has come out for Inquisition, I'm probably going to dip back into Dragon Age Inquisition for now. And yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. It's a strange one, is what I'll say for The Witcher. It's a very, very strange one. Anyway, that is it for this week, or today anyway. That is it for this video. If If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, follow all of my blogs and shit, which will be in the description. So leave me a comment, let me know what I could do better next time, or you know, just leave me some spam if you like, whatever floats your boat. And I will probably do another video on gaming at some point in the future, possibly when I've finished Dragon Age Inquisition: The Descent, although I still have bits of Jaws of Hakkon I haven't quite finished yet as well, so I'll just give an all-round DLC kind of thing. Ta-ra!